Hello, listeners. I'm Timstradamus, and it's Friday. And with me, as always, is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome all listeners to Friday. Woohoo! It's time to add some sizzle to the weekend.
Woo-hoo. I thought I'd go along.
I like it.
Lame.
I still love it.
Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for that.
Well, let's jump right into the stories while I enjoy my morning cup of brew. What did you create today?
I made you hibiscus, lemongrass, orange peel, a little bit of dried blueberry, and some acai berry.
Oh, that's a 5 out of 5.
Yes!
That's really good.
I got it for the week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you have a thing for berries.
Yes.
I try to give you tropical in the middle of the week, and at the beginning of the week, I try to bring you fall to bring you back to a cooler time.
That was really good.
For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For our first story, am I the a-hole for telling my friend to stop flaunting her money and calling her a gold digger? I, 39 female, have been best friends with Jill, 40 female, since we were in high school. Between the two of us, she's always been a bombshell. Blonde, tall, slim, big boobs, etc. She never dated anyone in high school, which was weird to me because almost everyone in our school did, including myself. When we were in college and she was still turning guys down, I asked her why, and she said she wanted someone who is financially stable. I laughed it off at the time. I should also mention she grew up poor, as in her mother was going to the food bank poor. After we graduated, she got a job at a gym teaching yoga. I continued my education to be a teacher. She eventually met someone at the gym, and he's rich. Like, I can't even comprehend the kind of money this guy has. Fast forward to now, they're married with 2 kids, and I believe she signed a prenup when they married. We were out to dinner on the Saturday that just passed with 2 other friends from college, and she wanted to go to a very expensive place, her treat. She does this a lot, flaunts her money, clothes, trips, etc., etc. I always try to smile and ignore it, but it has been slowly bothering me. The dinner was going fine until one of our friends, Amanda, asked Jill what she has planned for her birthday. Jill said her and her husband are going to Greece for 3 weeks. Amanda and Sharon both made comments about how nice and lovely that is, and I kind of just scoffed at it. When Jill asked me what was wrong, I admittedly lost it. I told her I'm tired of her flaunting her money at everyone all the time, and everyone knows she only married her husband for money. It got really quiet for a couple of seconds, and to my surprise, Jill very calmly asked if that's what everyone really thought. I said yes. Jill then asked if it was at all possible that she initially dated him for his money, but fell in love with him along the way. Both our other friends said of course at the same time. I said no. I told her she fell in love with what he can provide for her. She then asked me if I love what my boyfriend provides for me, which I was different because I never started dating him for those things. She countered that with, of course you did. If you were just attracted to him, but he wasn't loving, providing, caring, you wouldn't still be in a relationship with him. And if you were, it would be an unhappy and unhealthy one. I argued it's still not the same thing. She then stood up and said she has other places to be, and not to worry about the bill. She left, and the 3 of us finished our meal in silence. When the server came around, he handed me the bill for my meal only. She paid for herself and the other 2, but left me to pay for an almost $50 meal that I really couldn't afford. I texted her and called her an a-hole. She replied saying not to message her again until I apologized for my earlier comments. I admit I might have been too hard, but I don't think I'm wrong. So, am I the a-hole?
Woo! Spasibit bow.
You love the tea so much, I decided to bring it.
It be spilteth. OP is 39, and her probably ex-best friend at this point is 40.
Correct.
Sounds like they've been friends since high school, And she says that her friend has always been conventionally attractive. And she swatted away boys all throughout their growing up. And she found this funny because this carried over into college, that she was still doing that. And when she asked her friend why exactly she does that, her friend replied that she is waiting for someone who is financially stable. You're allowed to look for what you want in a partner. She eventually finds said partner and gets married, has 2 kids, and they're currently living their life now. But our OP sounds very, in my mind, very jealous of exactly what it is her best friend at the time has. So they're all going out to some lunch, I guess, and it says this is something that they do on occasion, and the best friend is treating everybody. And it is at this lunch that our OP decides to let her best friend know that her relationship doesn't mean anything because it came from what she deems is inappropriate requirements for her to have had of a relationship. I don't know where people get off telling each other what they can and can't value in a partner, but she then gets the tables turned and says, well, how is it any different than what you require of your boyfriend? She didn't like that being posed to her, so it became a thing. Best friend doesn't want to sit there anymore and deal with those type of accusations. That's understandable. I don't think anyone wants to deal with that, especially if they're with supposed friends. So she gets up, settles the bill, tells them that she's leaving now. And the funny part is, OP's friend leaves. She says that they finished their meal in silence. How awkward is that? That you made that situation that way for not only yourself, but your friends included? And then to the spiciest of tea drops, the chef's kiss. They go to settle the bill. The waitress comes back, says that the friends are taken care of, but that you are to cover your bill. I don't see where that was a wrong thing to do. If you're going to say some heinous, cruel things to someone, you better be willing and ready to pay your own bill. That's just how I feel about that. You ate food that you clearly couldn't afford. Even if someone's treating you, you should probably have the money just in case. That's just how I feel about that, especially if you want to pop off and be a bad friend that you are, because you clearly are jealous. I don't even know why you'd even broach that type of topic with your friend just to begin with. If they're your friend, you're just happy to have them around, not judging the aspects of their life that you deem are unfit. So I definitely believe, OP, you got what you deserved in this situation. You definitely are 100% the a-hole.
Well, the consensus is our OP is the a-hole. In fact, a lot of commenters said, you acted petty. You said that you didn't like your friend flaunting her money. So she gives you the ability to pay for your own stuff. Like the independent person that you are, you say you want to be. But now that she's not paying for your stuff, now you have an issue with her not wanting to flaunt her money. Truly, you have double standards here. A lot of commenters just put down, you're just really jealous of the relationship that she's in and that she gets to actually be in a really good spot. And it's unbecoming to covet something that's not yours. And then to go ahead and try and bring them down to a level that's lower than you because that's what you feel is unclassy. If it was going to bother you that much, you should have just said, I'm not hungry. I would just like to not go to the meal.
Yeah, it sounds like she's been harboring some stuff for a little bit, just in the way she describes her friend throughout their friendship.
A lot of commenters actually put down that they have rich friends. They enjoy who they are as a person. It's nice, the stuff that they can bring, but that's not why they're friends with them. They're friends with them because of who they like to hang out with.
Yep. Yeah, it just sounds like a really bad friend.
Well, let's go on to our next story and see what's happening here. Am I the a-hole for kicking my teen daughter out after she chose to keep her baby? I, 42 male, am a father of 2 boys and a 19-year-old daughter who I'll refer to as Emma. Her mother passed away a few years ago, and since then, it's just been the 4 of us. I have always tried my best to be there for her, but lately, we've been facing a major conflict that has torn our family apart. Emma got pregnant unexpectedly, and when she broke the news to me, I was taken aback. I wasn't prepared to become a grandfather at this stage of my life, and I admit that I initially reacted poorly. I was scared for Emma's future, knowing that becoming a teen mother can come with significant challenges. Feeling overwhelmed, I gave Emma an ultimatum. I told her that she had 2 choices, either give the baby up for adoption or leave the house. My reasoning behind this ultimatum was that I wanted what I thought was best for her and the baby. I didn't want her to struggle as a young single mother, and I believed adoption might provide the baby with a better life. Emma took her time to think things through and ultimately decided to keep the baby. She expressed to me how much she wanted to raise her child and that she believed she could handle the responsibility. She also mentioned that the idea of giving her baby away caused her immense emotional distress. After Emily made her decision, I reluctantly followed through with the ultimatum. I couldn't bear the thought of her struggling, but at the same time, I couldn't force her to give up her child against her will. So, with a heavy heart, I asked her to leave our home. Since Emily left, I've been feeling incredibly guilty about my decision. She's my daughter, and I love her deeply, but I believed that I was acting in her best interest. Now I'm questioning whether I did the right thing or if I should have been more supportive of her choice. Am I the a-hole?
All right, so we'll get started in this story. I think that the OP is a crappy person. He says that he has 3 kids, 2 boys and his daughter who is 19 at this point. He doesn't tell us how old his sons are, whether or not they're living in the home that he's currently occupying. He says that his wife passed away a couple years ago. That really sucks. I'm sorry to hear that. Now, we get into the other side of this. His daughter, who's 19, has gotten pregnant. His immediate reaction to this was to give her an ultimatum. Either you give the baby up for adoption, or you can keep your baby, but I kick you out of my home.
Because that's what's best for you, is what he says.
Yeah, because that's what's best for you. The only person that worked out for was our OP, because it inconvenienced him for her to have a baby. So you put her through what I can only imagine is probably the most stressful thing she's ever gone through. Telling anyone to give up their baby. Nope. So she sat there and she said she'd rather get kicked out of the home than lose her baby. And you, being this pillar of justice, said, I have to go along with what I said. So I kicked her out. He does not provide where she was going, if she was safe, if she was going to be living with other family members. None of that. None of this is detailed. Just that I kicked her out. So I'm guessing that's as far as he probably cared. Now, I don't know how long has passed between him doing that and him saying, oh, I feel bad about it now. Because now he's coming to the internet going, well, I'm having second thoughts about what I did.
Can I go ahead and include a commenter in the poster's response?
Sure.
A commenter said info. If you were reluctant to follow through with the ultimatum, why did you do so? Why didn't you just take it back, seeing as you didn't want to give it anyway? Our poster responded with, by not following through with my ultimatum, that would have then make my words cheap and not to be taken seriously anymore in the future. My kids would simply take my words as a bluff and nothing more.
You know what made you cheap? You being a crappy father. That's what made you cheap. Your love. Not that you didn't hold your words to something terrible. Your daughter needs you at this point, and you turned your back and you kicked her out. Your love is not to be trusted. Unless it completely goes along with what you have planned. Because see, you know how life works? That you can plan everything accordingly and it will happen to that plan? Absolutely not. That's not how life works. You have to adjust. That is the whole part of life, is learning how to adjust to the good and the bad. Your love is cheap. That's all you've taught your family. I hope that your daughter is okay. I don't know how you could have kicked your daughter out, giving her those choices with her life. You're definitely the a-hole.
Well, the overwhelming consensus is that he is the a-hole. In fact, there's one commenter that said, you couldn't bear the thought of her struggling, so you made her struggle more. I think this goes along the lines of, for a lot of commenters out there, they said you were the one that was afraid and refused to stand up as being a true father to your own child when they needed your help. Nothing in life is easy. There's always going to be a struggle. It's how we're able to get through that struggle with the family that we've made. And clearly, he's not very much family if he's willing to go ahead and let his daughter, and unfortunately, I couldn't find details on if she was homeless, where she went, if she had a job, what's going on. I have to assume that she has friends that can help her, that she might have already had a job and maybe she's saving. Unfortunately, there's just not enough information to go on with the way that he deleted his account and tried to remove this. Unfortunately, it was caught too fast by everyone, and there has been overwhelming just response to this regarding this person's awful way on saying that they don't want their child to struggle in the world when they are the reason why their child is struggling.
There's not enough to describe this type of person.
One commenter actually put down, she just lost her mother a few years ago, and now she's losing her father now.
Your daughter's a gem. She chose the uncertainty, but to keep her child versus sitting under your roof. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Well, let's go on to our next story, shall we? Let's see what's going on at this upcoming wedding. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother he cannot come to my wedding? I, 32 female, and my fiance, 30 male, are getting married in 3 months. We've done some major and minor planning, including rules. We specifically want no kids at the wedding. My brother, 35 male, and I have always been close. We've gotten through a lot together. He has 2 amazing kids, 2 and 3. I couldn't be happier to be their aunt. Their mother has had issues with substance abuse, so she isn't in their lives. My brother raises the kids by himself, which is convenient because he has an at-home job. Me and my fiance decided we did not want any kids at our wedding because we were going to be drinking, partying, and other stuff. I personally wouldn't want kids to be around. We've also had struggles trying to have children of our own, and I recently had a miscarriage in February. The miscarriage was devastating. Of course, my brother was there to comfort me, but the sight of my nieces shattered me even more. I asked him to not bring them around me for a while. He didn't respond to that well and stopped visiting me at all. He said via text messages, "If your own nieces cannot come, neither will I." My fiance said it was okay to ask for no kids to be around, but my parents were frustrated. They also stopped visiting me. I eventually sent out invitations to all my loved ones. The card had all the details, including the bolded, "No kids." Majority of family was okay with that and didn't have young kids anyway. My brother, on the other hand, was going to be in my wedding, but once he read the invitation, he sent me a text stating, "Wouldn't your nieces make great flower girls? Going to buy dresses now." I replied, "No need. They cannot come inside my wedding. No hard feelings." He then said, "It shouldn't apply to them. They are family. What color should they get? Blue or silver?" I then replied, "None. If you feel like you cannot be separated from your children for a couple hours, then you cannot come to my wedding. My rules are clear and final on the invitation." I blocked my brother after that. I have nonstop been getting text after text, call after call begging me to talk to my brother and allow my nieces to come. My own parents have stated that until my nieces and brother are allowed at my wedding, they will not be there. Am I the a-hole?
'Tis peak, my lord. Wow. Well, let's gather all the facts, because this is a nuanced story. Because it's not as easy as just calling someone an a-hole, if I'm understanding this correctly. So OP is 32, and she's getting married. And she has a brother that has 2 daughters that are very young. Now, OP said that she's been trying to have kids, and unfortunately she had a miscarriage not that long ago. Her response to the miscarriage was that she can't see her nieces right now because of the loss. It's at that point that not only the brother, but the rest of the family have a problem with that feeling. Are we telling OP that it's wrong to feel that way?
I would say that there's different ways to hold grief, but it depends on how everything was delivered, in my opinion.
But everyone is allowed to grieve in their own way. I don't think she said anything heinous. She just said that right now, it'd be better off not to see your nieces.
Correct.
Is that so wrong?
I don't think it's wrong.
Okay. So we have that playing in this story. She doesn't want to see them for right now till she's past her grieving point. However long that is, that's no one's business but her own. So now we have the looming of the wedding. It's coming. The brother and her have basically stopped contact because of this. And the parents, after she let everyone know that she didn't want to see the nieces for the time being, have stopped coming over as well. So the wedding's happening. Brother knows that he's still a part of it. I'm not sure what he is in the wedding, but they say he's in the wedding. So he assumes, after receiving the wedding invitation where it says in bold, no children, he assumes that his kids are not only able to come, but that they are going to be the flower girls. I'm not sure how you can draw that line. Everyone seems to think that they are always the exception to the rule. Every time. After the brother receives this invitation, he texts her and goes, hey, I'm not sure that was for us, but wouldn't your nieces look good in XYZ color dresses? She says, nope, don't worry about it because I said no children. His rebuttal is that they're still going to do it. What color dress would you like for me to get for them? And then she says, if you can't be away from your kids for a couple hours and not follow that one rule, then you don't need to come yourself. And then blocks him. So we have a lot of butting heads here. Now, I don't think the kids not being there had anything to do with her prior miscarriage. She just states that her and her fiance have said that there's going to be drinking and they don't want kids around. People are allowed to have that at their wedding. Someone says no children, it means no children. You're not the exception. But his unwillingness to see that kind of floors me. I'm going to say that I don't think ROP is the a-hole. First, you got to think of the fact that she did have a miscarriage. And yes, maybe her going about it by basically excommunicating the nieces was not great, but that's how she's choosing to deal with her grief right now. I don't see why that's so out of the blue. We're not saying it's an eternity. We're just saying for the time being, while she gets through this time, that she doesn't want to see him. That might be abnormal and a harsh way of going about it, but who are we to tell anyone that that's not okay? If there was going to be a problem that people had, that one I think would be the pill that people die on, is that you shouldn't be doing that to children. But she's only asking if she's the a-hole for not inviting her brother because her brother is pushing past her boundaries as far as those kids attending the wedding. So that's all I'm basing this off of. She's not the a-hole for having that requirement at her wedding and for her brother pushing past it. No, I don't think that's appropriate.
Well, let me go ahead and give you the moderator's verdict and then the consensus from what I can see.
I look forward to it.
The moderators tagged this as she is the a-hole.
Okay.
And the consensus is truly split everywhere. Some people say no a-holes here. Some people say everyone's sex here. I've seen you're the a-holes and I've seen not the a-holes. Now let me go ahead and break this down from what I can see. So the individuals that are saying that she's not the a-hole go along with how you say it. It's her wedding. It's her rules. If she doesn't want XYZ there, XYZ is not coming. It's no different than anything else.
Yep.
Now, the individuals that saying that she is the a-hole are saying that her reasons for this are not healthy or good at all. And that's what makes her the a-hole. You've essentially encountered a loss, and now you're cutting off all sorts of family because you're not allowing yourself to properly grieve. Putting yourself in a box and saying that you don't want to deal with looking at children at all because it will trigger you isn't a way for you to get through the grieving stage.
Well, to that argument, though, I don't think this had anything to do with the miscarriage. I just think that that's how they wanted their wedding.
No, they actually put in there. They said, yes, they're going to have drinking, partying, and other stuff. But she's also put, we've also had struggles trying to have children of our own, and I recently had a miscarriage. The miscarriage was devastating. So let me go ahead and bring it back to this. The individuals that seem to say that she's the a-hole appear to be a lot of people that have had miscarriages.
Okay.
That have had to deal with those losses. And their advice is you can't cut out family. Your loss is your loss. But the moment that you have projected that on the children that is in your family because you can't stand to look at them because you don't get to have that right now is not a good way or healthy way to go about it.
Sure, I agree with that.
We had one commenter say that they had a miscarriage and then found out that they could never have children. They say they love their nieces and their nephews to pieces. But the fact that they look at them and every time they know that they can never have their own children hurts them. But they know that this is something that they need to work through. To actually cut out having a relationship with them isn't healthy.
So I guess I was only going about that saying that if she didn't want to see them for the time she's grieving, I'm not saying cut out a relationship. I was saying for the next couple of weeks, if that's what she needs to get by her grieving period, why is that so bad to ask?
So let me ask you, How long do you think a grieving period can take?
However long it needs to.
So you're saying 5 years of not seeing her nieces and nephews is okay? Because that's how long grieving can take?
And you're right. Maybe my assumption on it being only a few weeks or a couple months was wrong. I think I went about it as well with the wedding was planned to be non-child from the beginning. And so why was that wrong that she said that? And yes, unfortunately, it also corresponded with her having the miscarriage before it. But was that a decision she made before the miscarriage?
One, she doesn't necessarily say.
Okay.
However, from how it sounds like when she sent out the invitations, it was after. Now, the only reason why I say that is because she says, while they've been looking through this, one of the go-along reasons, aside from the partying, is that she's had this miscarriage and it's been a struggle, and her miscarriage was in February. We're now in July.
Okay.
Going through to August. That's 5 to 6 months of potential grieving. I'm not saying that anybody in her family's made it easy, because there's no such thing as an easy when it comes to any kind of grieving.
Sure, it's personal.
And a lot of people can take things all sorts of ways. Her brother, apparently, she says, was there to comfort her in her time of need.
And I can appreciate that, and that's amazing.
Now, I can't say that based on what I'm reading and understanding, for her brother to be there and trying to comfort her, however it is that she said that her nieces can't come, apparently triggered him so much that he says, if my nieces can't come to see you, neither can I. And then triggered her parents so much that they say that they no longer want to be around if she can't learn to be more inclusive. I'm not saying that that's correct.
I can agree with their argument as far as it not being a healthy way to do it. I can't argue that point because I can agree with that.
So for me, if it was not an issue, it would not have even been brought up in the post. She wouldn't have talked about miscarriages. She wouldn't have talked about how strenuous her relationship with her brother and her parents were because of her ousting children, period.
Okay, no, I can understand that.
So
that makes sense.
The crux wasn't that it was going to have alcohol at the wedding, because otherwise that's all that this post would be, hey, I didn't want children at my wedding because I was going to have alcohol and my brother doesn't understand.
Okay, so by her drawing attention to the miscarriage and the kids, we're saying that that is coupled along with her decision making on the non-child wedding.
When I read it personally, and mind you, I know where you stand, and you stand with like, this is the rules, this is what was told of people, and if they can't accept it, then that's just too bad. And I understand that viewpoint. I see it as, are these rules truly the rules for the right reasons?
Sure.
Is it because of these original reasons, or did you put these original reasons in and then sprinkle in how you truly feel afterwards as an underlier? Because if you're saying that, then it's not healthy.
Sure. And I 100% can agree with that. But I guess I'll bring it back to this. Is it still right for the brother to have done what he did? Even if, let's say, the sister did it out of the worst reasons, is it still right for him to have said, okay, I don't care what you feel. What color dresses do you want? He did it twice. Pushed past her boundary twice. Is it still okay for him to have done that to her?
Not necessarily, no.
And that's where I come back to it. Is I can't give him a pass for being the way he was.
But I also can't give her a pass because she's not
doing it for the right reasons.
I don't think it's good to go ahead and oust a complete section of your family because you find it too difficult.
I can agree with that sentiment.
There are no real a-holes here.
And honestly, if that's, I can get on that plane. I just wish the brother wouldn't have pushed past those boundaries and just assume that
I think
he was doing the right thing.
I think for him, because it's very hard to answer grief like that, that maybe his way of trying to,
help her get out of it is
correct.
Exposing her to the children.
Correct. And for him, I can see it as, if you're rejecting my children, you're essentially rejecting a piece of me.
Yeah, I get that. I can get on the side of no one's the a-hole. This one's a tough one. I look forward to hearing what everyone else's opinions are, because this story is very nuanced and it does take a little bit of understanding it from both sides.
Oh, yes. If anything, there's too many facets to really have a definitive anything, but we would definitely love to hear your responses. Well, let's go ahead and head into our next story and see what you think about this one. Am I the a-hole for calling my 8-year-old niece ugly?
Oh no.
My 20 male, older sister, 32 female, and her husband have an 8-year-old niece who I adore. She's smart, extremely precocious, and very funny. She's also, simply put, very unfortunate looking. Neither her parents are ugly, but she received the worst possible combination of their features. Maybe in time she'll grow into it with time, but currently she is, as I said, unfortunate looking. My sister and her husband try to circumvent this by constantly calling her pretty, beautiful, gorgeous, etc. I get that every parent is going to see their kid that way, but I don't think it's a good idea to constantly praise her for beauty. Why? Kids are cruel, and they'll let her know she's not beautiful. So all praising her looks does is reinforce that beauty is something to be desired and praised for, all the while with her knowing she doesn't have it. It's much better, in my opinion, to boost her self-esteem off the many good traits she does have, so she doesn't have to rely on her looks for her confidence. My sister and her husband don't seem to understand this or disagree with it, which is fair enough, their call as parents, but they insist that I call her beautiful too, and I said no and explained why. I do praise her a lot for her intelligence, her sense of humor, etc. They say that she is beautiful, and I need to call her beautiful so she knows it. So I said bluntly that no, if we're being honest, she's ugly, and kids will let her know she's ugly. So bringing up beauty will only make her see it as something worthy of praise she doesn't have. My sister started screaming at me for calling her daughter ugly. I know it can be a sensitive topic, but she's a grown adult, and I think she should be able to handle honesty on the subject. She thinks I'm a huge a-hole, and I'm just trying to be realistic and do what I think is best for my niece. Am I the a-hole?
What is this story?
It's a mess.
Okay, OP, let's see if we got all the facts. You're 20, your sister is in her 30s, and she has a husband, and she has a kid who is 8.
Correct.
You start off the story really cool. You describe all these awesome little attributes she has. She's smart, she's funny, precocious, and then you say some really weird words after that.
Unfortunate looking.
I have never heard someone actually say that before. Unfortunate looking. Interesting. So that's where this tale takes off. Because up until those words, you sounded like a decent, I guess you're her uncle. But after that, it just gets way worse. I don't know if ROP has ever been told that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but it is very true. There are many people who may not look conventionally attractive to some, but to others, they might be the most beautiful thing in the world. It really does depend on the person. Now, if you didn't want to go along with calling the 8-year-old beautiful or pretty or whatever the parents were trying to get you to call her, you're more than okay with not doing that. But you going out of your way to call an 8-year-old ugly, where do you get off? Are we rating children on beauty? Is that what happens now?
Gross.
Who looked the way they're supposed to look when they're growing? What? What's happening? Even if he is correct on whether the kids go and make fun of his niece when she's going through school about how ugly or not she is, that's not something in his or the parents' control. What you can control is how you make her feel through your words. So, OP, you definitely are the a-hole?
Well, the consensus was kind of split, but the majority went towards you're the a-hole. Now, we did have a section that said you shouldn't have to hide behind the label of calling someone beautiful, but I think it's that people truly don't understand what beauty really is.
Sure.
Beauty doesn't have anything to do with your looks. That's only one facet of what that word means. Beauty can mean anything. Can people see a song? Can they truly see a poem? Or understand the beauty of words written in a book without reading them? All of those things can be described as beautiful and have nothing to do with looks. It's all just characteristics of that one thing. Whether it's the melody of a song or the way that someone sings, to how someone writes, whether it's a story or a poem. So their argument was, for all the not the a-holers, isn't it what a lot of women or society in general has said, that nothing should be based off of looks?
Sure.
That you should be teaching your children outside of anything concerning your looks. But in this case, you're trying to have these parents make this person say that she's beautiful when she's apparently clearly not. I say so many people have put out there that songs, poems, written anything is seen as being beautiful. So why is it that you only have one sliver of a definition of what beauty is? And I think in this case, a lot of the not the a-holers were just hung up on how it is that we should be teaching and raising children. But you're teaching, the way that you're viewing what the word beauty is exactly what we're trying not to teach a lot of young people what beauty is.
Exactly.
Because beauty doesn't have anything to do with looks, how you're talking about it. It has to do with who you are. And if she's apparently all of those things that he described
then
as she is
beautiful.
as a person, she is beautiful.
Yep.
Personally, I think our poster is definitely the a-hole, along with a lot of what the consensus says. Let me go ahead and leave what I've read once. You don't love people because they are beautiful. They are beautiful because you love them. I think those are very profound words. We can find attractive people everywhere, honestly. Makeup and surgeries can make someone look what is considered attractive, but they don't look beautiful to me because I don't love them. But who you love in your life becomes that beauty that nobody can touch.
I can agree with that.
Well, let's go ahead and leave this beauty pageant behind us now. And let's go for our last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to host a birthday party because my nephew isn't allowed in my house? I, 24 female, live on a 4-acre property that I bought for cheap from my grandma who moved to a retirement community. My nephew is turning 16 at the end of the month. My sister asked if we could host his party here on the family property, meaning at my house. I told her no, because my nephew is not allowed at my house. My nephew does not respect boundaries and treats everything like his plaything, including the boundaries of my older black lab, Davos. He constantly chases him around and tries to pick him up despite me telling him to constantly leave him alone. Davos has arthritis and can't be chased around and hates loud noises, which my nephew is very loud. As far as I know, he is neurotypical. My sister blew up at me telling me I was putting a dog before my nephew and it was my grandma's property that I can't dictate. I told her it was my property. I bought it and tended it and pay all the bills for it. My mom called me and asked if I could just put Davos in a room during the party and suck it up for just a day, but I said no. This is his house and he's allowed to go wherever he wants and I won't shut him in a room. Now my family is divided, some of them calling me immature and selfish, and others saying I'm right, while some, including my father, refuse to get involved. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add, because I've gotten this question a couple times, if the other members of the family were offered the house. My Nana and I have always had a very close relationship, and I've helped her tend the property for as long as I can remember. So she offered to sell it to me when she grew too old to tend to it herself. So no, other family members weren't given the opportunity to buy it, but they also weren't interested in it. It is very old and outdated, and my sister especially always talked about how much she hated the aesthetic of the house. The sole reason she wants to host it here is because my house has the most space. It's not a sentimental space for her. Am I the a-hole?
Let's go on the journey.
All right, Bilbo.
OP is 24.
Correct.
She sounds like she's got a good head on her shoulders.
Oh, yes.
Sounds like she loves her grandma a lot, and her grandma loves her. So it's cool when you can share that connection with the grandparent.
Definitely.
I miss mine. So she inherited the house, basically. Well, no, not really inherited because she still bought it.
Correct.
From her grandma. And her grandma chose her to sell it to because it sounded like she loved and respected that home the same way her grandmother did. That's really cool. Now we get into the issue. ROP has a sister who has a son who's close to her age because the son's 16.
Correct.
And ROP is 24. That's really close.
You're not wrong. I didn't actually catch that.
OP's sister asks if they can throw their 16-year-old son's party on the property. Now, she makes it very clear. They don't say her house. They say the family property.
Correct.
Which means they don't see it as the OP owning it either. Don't you hate when family dictates what you own even though legally you own it?
Yes.
We've heard this story several times now where family just seems to think that because it was owned by someone in the family that they all have some type of say in what happens and who owns it. Even though on legal documents and through the owner, which would have been the grandmother, giving it to our OP while selling it.
Take your paws off my property.
There's a reason why she didn't pick you. But they're not seeing it that way. They're all going, well, hey, we all still own this because OP owns it. Nah, that's not how it works. So she asks. She's allowed to. Our OP is also allowed to say no. The reason she gives is because the 16-year-old does not respect things. In fact, she has a older dog. Do they give dog tax?
Let me go ahead and actually... no, they don't.
Oh, dude.
It said someone identified me, so unfortunately I have to take down the dog tax. Thank you all kind people of Reddit.
All
Also,
right.
let me just go ahead and put this down because she put it in her post and I figured she'd want us to send out this message. Hello, Reddit. And person who has commented 1,048 times that Game of Thrones is also a book and not just a show. Thank you for the new information that I never knew, and I've definitely never read them. Shut the fuck up already.
So, now that we got that out of the way.
It made me chuckle.
Oh, that sucks, though. I really wanted to see the little doggy.
Right, so did I.
Davos? Very cool name. Davos. Very debonair.
I like it.
But, so she has a dog named Davos, and he's a senior.
Correct.
Has arthritis.
Poor thing.
Doesn't like loud noises. Unfortunately, her nephew specializes in all these things. Chasing, making loud noises. She already says it. He's neurotypical. So he would understand that when she says, please do not do these things to my dog, that these are the requirements that he needs to meet. He clearly does not care, because I'm certain this wasn't a one-time incident.
No, actually. Let me go ahead and provide you a comment that she actually put down, which provides a little clarity on what's going on.
I love when you do this for me because it's like I find a clue in a game and then there's more prompts.
It's escape room. It's like my mind. I'm just like, oh, you've triggered the special event. Honestly, if he was 3, I would be more lenient. 3-year-olds have no idea what the fuck is going on ever. They're learning. But yes, he throws a tantrum when he's told no, and one time tried to fight my husband when he wouldn't let him harass Davos, which is what got him banned to begin with. Just as additional information, our OP says she was also diagnosed as neurotypical later on in her life as well.
Okay. Well, that's kind of where I'm circling back on it. Her nephew knows not to do that, but he's continuing to go beyond that. And I'm willing to guess it's not just with the dog. She says he also does that with items in their home.
Correct.
You can't be 16 and be doing that on other people's property. You're harassing their senior dog. I wouldn't deal with that. You telling me the alternative is to lock the dog up because your son can't keep his hands off him or abuse him?
At 16?
That's more your parenting than my decision to keep my dog in. I would be more concerned about why he's still doing that at 16. You guys need to go ahead and get him into some form of therapy because he doesn't know what boundaries are. Yeah, OP, you're definitely not the a-hole. Don't let your family strong arm you into doing something that you don't want to do.
I definitely agree with that. And the consensus also agrees with that. They say this is her home. It's not a family home. They don't pay the bills. They didn't purchase it. And the fact that they would voluntold her own home is awful. Doesn't matter how much space you have. It's none of your concern, and it is her choice. It wasn't like she was setting up a party for his 16th birthday and then wasn't inviting him over because she couldn't stand him.
Yep.
It was that the party wasn't happening, and therefore they should go ahead and make plans somewhere else. And I second that. Your home is your kingdom, and it should be how you feel comfortable using it. Whether you got it from a family member for cheap or as a gift is of no concern. It is your home.
Hear, hear. So, was that our last story?
That was our last story.
Well, that was an interesting way to end off Friday. You picked a lot of good stories.
Some nuanced, a lot of gray ground.
Oh, yeah. I can always appreciate the conversation. Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you've seen the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We are regularly posting on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Don't forget to leave your opinions and your viewpoints in the comments section below. Also, what are your plans for the weekend?
We're planning on staying home and doing a puzzle box that we got.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a tarot puzzle box where you're supposed to figure out an escape. It's kind of like your choose own adventure puzzle. Very interesting.
I'm excited to do that with you and catching up on some chores. And remember, if you post it, maybe we'll see it on the internet.